Hey, what's going on, everybody? First time at doing this one here. This is going to be the It's in the Blood. That's going to be a weekly recap for IU basketball this week. And also, we're going to preview the upcoming week that's headed our way, which is going to be an absolute gauntlet. It's going to be really tough to win those two games. What's up, MH Play? First thing we're going to get into today is we're going to go through and we're going to do a little recap of last week just so everybody kind of knows where we ended up. Two very, very hardly fought games. We had a couple really nice moments throughout the week and opposed, so we'll get to those too. We're going to start with the game in Evanston the other night. Couldn't have played a worse first half. I think that was probably the worst half of basketball I've seen in a long time. Right on. Absolutely, that was the worst half of basketball, and it was followed up by a better half. But I didn't think the second half was played that exceptional. I felt like Northwestern just kind of fell apart at the seams. Going through that game, though, Trayce Jackson-Davis played 39 minutes in that game. He is not getting any rest. He goes 23, 10, and 8. Great numbers. They almost came back and won that game. Jalen Hood-Schifino also put in 40 minutes in that game. He still has a lot of these freshman lumps, but as I checked it the other day, you look up on the scoreboard and where he's being projected at right now. Currently, he's being projected right around a top 10 pick. So looks like he will probably venture into the draft, I would assume, with his upside. I think he needs to really work on his shooting game and be a little more consistent there. With that being said, Race Thompson put in 13 points in that game as well, and he had only about 3 rebounds. Trey Galloway also came in there today in that game, and he went 7, 6, and 3. He played better at the point guard position this week than Jalen Hood-Schifino did. So, all things being said there, those guys really played. And Miller Kopp, he did end up with 1 3-pointer and 6 rebounds. Yeah, getting into that just a hair, Miller Kopp took some real badgering in that game from the Northwestern fans. I agree with that wholeheartedly, that it was not a respectful thing to happen at a school with such prestige. I think that really put a downside on the game. Northwestern walked away with the win at that game. The one point that I don't think anybody's really going to talk about, and that's the amount, and we were talking about it during the stream, was the turnovers during the game. And in that game, Trayce Jackson-Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino were responsible for 8 total turnovers between them two. Those two play a lot of the two-man game, and they've got to take care of that ball. That was really a big factor in the way that game turned out. The rest of the team did really well. I think there was only 3 turnovers amongst the rest of the players that day. Going a little bit further in that game, the technicals from the bench probably end up costing them the game in the end. That sparked a pretty decent little run there in the first half where Northwestern extended that lead. And the end of that game, but the end of the game, if you want to go back and look at it, I didn't notice it at the time. I had a guy, watching the game live. I had an awful angle, but boo-booey that should have been an overtime game. In every stretch of the imagination that you can take the rule, he pushed off there at the end to gain space between him and Trey Galloway, and that should have been a charge because Trey Galloway was in great defensive position. But we're not here to cry about what we can't change. We're going to take that in stride as that is what happened. That's the way it was called. And with that being said, karma got Larry Sherrado, I guess, because now he's not refereeing anymore. He's been sidelined due to some accusations of racism on the police force where he worked as his full-time job. So yeah, that being said, that's where that ends up. Not a great look for us. We could have had 2 wins this week and been sitting in an ideal position to, when we played Purdue, to try to take over first place in the conference, which would have been amazing if that were to happen. It did not. We're going to roll on through the week a little bit here, and then we come to the Illinois game on this weekend. Another game where I did not feel like the team performed very well. We went into Champaign and actually laid a whooping on these guys from Illinois, and we portrayed it like we really were on our game. That was really the start of when that was the start when Coach actually got into these guys about their defensive play. Coming into this game, it looked a lot the same. Trayce Jackson-Davis finished with he only played 37 minutes in this game. Coach used the bench a little bit more and got him a breather, but he goes 26-12 and then 2, 3, and 5 on assists, steals, assists, steals, and blocks. Let me get that right. After that, Jalen Hood-Schifino put in 13 points. He had 7 rebounds and 3 assists. Again, those 2 guys had a lot of turnovers in the game, which needs to be cleaned up a little bit. That is probably the biggest thing that I bet Coach is going to take away from that game. That they need to take that over. Miller Kopp had a pretty good game, 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Race Thompson, 10 points, 6 rebounds, a block, and an assist. Those guys carried the minute load. Those guys did the majority of the work. Also, I'm going to comment to that. Did you hear the fans in there? They were chanting, "Let's go Hoosiers." It was insanely loud in there. Northwestern had to call timeout because the player couldn't even hear his coach. That's amazing. That is really, truly amazing. I think that, that speaks a lot. When we talk about, Jalen Hood-Schifino's gotten a little bit sloppy on the point guard play. His 2-guard play is still pretty good. He's not really looking good at the point here lately. Trey Galloway has done a better job running point than Jalen Hood-Schifino has. And, I had a couple of things once we get beyond this Illinois game. I want to say that this Illinois game, I think we just willed ourselves to victory in the end of that game. I don't think we played exceptionally well the whole game. We did outscore them 36-30 in the second half, but it really looked like the double team that they put on Trayce really affected him more so than anything, and that was probably the reason why the first half went so poorly. Was Trayce was having trouble. The way that they double teamed, it really hurt. Going with that being said, Trayce Jackson-Davis did tell, I think it was Peegs, that he is going to declare for the draft, even though he has 1 more year of eligibility. He's playing exceptional basketball. I think it's a good time. I think the draft class is more suited for him to get a better spot landed in the NBA, a higher draft pick, and I think for his future that is ideal. I did hear that Xavier Johnson's probably coming back next week. I think that they should treat him like every other injury, work him back in. I'm not sure how good his foot's going to be. I saw the shoot around. I posted a short about it. With that being said, you know that they really need his intensity and they need him at 100%. The Big Ten tournament will be ideal for that. I heard he's supposed to come back maybe the Iowa game. Xavier Johnson. And MH, we'll get to that in a second too, because I got some extra stuff today. Today was not intended to be really long, just kind of give us a quick recap. Look forward to next week. We got talking in here yesterday during the game, And the comparison was made by one of the commentators about Trace Jackson Davis's numbers being comparable to Tim Duncan's. And then inevitably, it really pushed me along into thinking, that they had a very similar game. Tim Duncan did shoot a few more three-pointers in college and then, and going into the NBA, but he was a very similar back down to the post player, heavy on the defense and the blocks. He averaged similar numbers at Wake Forest. Probably Trace Jackson Davis is a little bit more athletic version of him. And if you would take Trace and put him in the draft in the mid-'90s when Tim Duncan went, early 90s, mid-'90s, trying to remember when exactly, Trace Jackson Davis would have probably went out as a sophomore. The big knock on him has been that outside shot. Where he's progressed is that now not only does he hasn't worked on the outside shot, he's progressed on his ball handling and his passing skills. The double team against Illinois was a little bit of a detriment to those, but he has done an exceptional job leading fast breaks, making good decisions. Trace Jackson has played very well as far as, a transition player. Yeah, I mean, you can say that. I think this is going to be this year is probably might be the highest about being draftable. I think that's what it really plays. What it really plays for his, future. And you know what? You're probably right. Maybe so. It just seems like he's going to get drafted this year, whereas years past he was probably going to have to be a free agent. So I think that's the reason why for the decision this year. Xavier Johnson, we'll get into that next. But I like the comparison, the Tim Duncan comparison, because I went back today before this and watched Wake Forest videos. And I watched the way that he ran in transition. He followed plays. He played defense. He took easy baskets. He had a quick drop step in getting to the basket. Their games are very similar. Somebody said that it was a horrible comparison talking about Tim Duncan to Trace Jackson Davis. If you go back and watch, I think Creek was correct. He said Trace Jackson Davis athletically and with his game was further ahead of Tim Duncan when Tim Duncan went into the NBA. I would buy that after watching some of his senior season on TV or watching YouTube videos. The other thing I wanted to talk about, I'm going to flip my page here to my notes so that I make sure I get it right. My next question is for everybody in the house. I want to know how you guys feel about next season. I know it's a little early to think about that, and I'm going to drop a few things out here for you. Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to be a top 10 pick. I assume he's going to enter the draft. Trace Jackson Davis is probably going to be a little bit after that, somewhere the way they're projecting between 12 and 20. The question is does Xavier Johnson, who does have one more year of eligibility, does he come back to play? That's the big question. I don't know that answer. I just wanted to bring that up so everybody could kind of chew on that a hair. Also, we know that Race Thompson is gone, and we know that Miller Kopp is gone. I like the thought of Xavier Johnson coming back for one more year. But, if that happens, that really makes the backcourt it looks like we're going to see a lot of three-guard play. Indiana does not have hopefully this stuff with Logan Duncombe, I'm not sure what that boils down to. I know that they said that he's put on some weight this year. I know that there was a 3-game suspension in there somewhere as well, and I'm not positive what that was about. I was reading on Fox Sports today, but that the sinus injury, the sinus infection required surgery. So I don't know that we will see Logan Duncombe back this year. But if he stays with the university, I kind of had the feeling that he might be transferring. I'm not saying that what you read is incorrect or right, but usually when a player goes into their second season and they're expected to play and they're not getting any playing time, when the coach stops playing them, it's usually because I think, look at the likes of Christian Lander last year. You knew he was leaving. So I'm not saying that he's leaving. I'm just wondering because they're going to need that size underneath. Him and Malik Renew will be running the post next year. Undoubtedly, those two guys will be, and it'll be more of a 3-guard set. You're going to have the only other person that is in that mix is Geronimo, that's going to be playing a secondary 4 or a 3. I don't know that he's going to be a wing. I believe it's muscle. They said that he put on some good weight, and that they said good weight. So by that, I'm going to hopefully say that is muscle. But what that leaves for next year, and once you get in there, if Xavier comes back, you still got Renew, Galloway, Bates, and Geronimo that look like, possible starters. Honestly, those guys there are the ones that have played the most minutes this year. And then, sitting right behind them, you got Banks, Duncombe, Leal, and CJ Gunn. Also, with the recruiting class coming next year, the only 2 people in that class that are signed is Gabe Cupps, who's going to be a point guard, and then Ja'Kai Newton, he's like a 4-star combo guard. Haven't gotten much on him yet. Be on the lookout. I'm going to clip and run a video here in the near future about these 2 guys. It'll be an introduction to IU basketball. I usually wait to do those about June, let the season end and let recruiting get finalized, and so that you know how many people are coming. With that and all that going that way. And then after that, do you think they're going to snatch somebody out of the transfer portal? The other guy that they were looking for as a 7-footer ended up signing with Maryland in the last, here recently, not too far back. So they're going to be lacking on depth on size because the 2 big guys, you're going to have 3 total, kind of what they've been doing this year. You're going to have Duncombe, you're going to have Renew, and you're going to have Geronimo. Yeah. And that, and recruiting is another thing. Tonight, after the stream is over and I knock this thing off, please drop down, any thoughts or ideas for possible recruiting. I do not get to keep up so much with who they're trying to nail down. I'd like to, if anybody gets any information about the transfer portal, who they might seek out there. There's some really, you never know who's going to end up in that. That is definitely a good way to go. I did not intend for today to be super long. I want to say hello, everybody, really fast. MH, thanks for all the commentary. Definitely appreciate it. Tim, Alley Cat, much love, my brother, or dad, or son, whatever you want to be. Nathan's in the house. Thank you, Nathan. Peter, thank you very much. He's like Kenny Battle from Illinois. Pretty similar, that style of player, which is really a dying breed in the NBA. And as to what MH said earlier, you've got to develop an outside jump shot, or they're just going to pack it in on you a little bit and give you that, make you earn it. He's not going to get as many easy baskets in the NBA as he does in college. So he's going to have to develop something on that side. The ball handling skills has been a big plus for Trace. That's really helped out a lot. I still think, that he's definitely going into the draft. So, and I don't think it's going to be one of those things where he doesn't hire an agent. I think he's going for it full bore this time. Wish him all the luck in the world. Continue to break some scoring records while he's here at Indiana, and we should definitely pay homage and thank him when he leaves. Thoughts on next year's lineup? Also, if you decide to delve in a little bit further, I was expecting a few of the other guys in here tonight as well that we talked about this. Hopefully they'll catch some of this on the flip. I'm probably going to clip this out for a couple videos as well, just so that everybody gets an opportunity to see it. Maybe we can grow our family in here for IU basketball a little bit more. Going forward into this week's games, I feel watching what I have seen here lately, I feel like Michigan State is a very winnable game on the road. They play with great intensity, and if we don't take care of the ball, we're in trouble. Um, that's true always on the road. But the manner in which we fought back against a pretty good defensive Northwestern team in the second half really pushed me up to the thinking that maybe that there's an opportunity for us to win that game. The game on Purdue on Saturday, the time has changed. They moved that back to 7:30. So, and that's going on Fox Sports, I believe, has that one on Saturday. Definitely, they are going to be out for revenge. I would be hard-pressed to pick Indiana to win that game. I think Purdue is probably going to be on their game. You know what? If we play well, we do have a shot at defense. If we can find a way to deal with Zach Edey, we handled everybody else pretty well. Thoughts on Purdue? Thoughts on Michigan State? Michigan State game, I think, is Tuesday. Let me bring that up. Also today, where did they go? Northwestern is smacking the heck out of Iowa today. One more win for another 20-game win season. Here we go. They play Michigan State. That will be Tuesday at 9 p.m. Tuesday at 9 p.m. I will be here for that game. Also, let's see. I'll be here Tuesday and for Saturday. And then after that, we finish the season with 2 home games. We need to steal one on the road and then sweep out at home. And I think that'll really lock us in. It'll definitely lock us into a top 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament. And if Xavier is back by the Iowa game, that gives us limited minutes in that game, limited minutes in the Michigan game, maybe 10 to 15 minutes in the Big Ten tournament, and be ready to go by the NCAA tournament. Hopefully get all that continuity back. Here's where the point comes in where I start going in to my thought process for March. And what I think about March is this. You know what? We've been injured all year. This team has not played at 100% and played great basketball with the amount of people that's been in and out of the lineup. Race Thompson and Xavier Johnson going down was very hard on this lineup. All of our guard play was still young. We really needed Xavier in the lineup. Trey Galloway's done admirable, but he's really a better sixth man for this team right now. If we can get healthy and get our continuity back with our original starting 5, which is going to be 4 seniors and a freshman, we can make some noise in March because of the style of basketball we play and the type of defense that we can play. Xavier Johnson's absolutely great at defending the ball. We have depth now. I complain that we've been only going 8 deep, but we get everybody back. We have the ability to go 9 or 10 deep for at least some minutes. And going into March, getting them guys a little bit of rest, that's huge as well. TJD, I'm glad he only played 37. I wish he was playing 32. So we have Michigan State. We have Purdue next week, 2 very tough games. If we can somehow muster together a sweep, you're going to see me lose my mind. I love the idea. I think, this team has a very solid outside shot if you get the correct draw and don't run into the wrong team early of making a very deep run. I call this season, I still say a Sweet 16 is a win. I think an Elite 8 is what I would like and hope to see. A Final Four would be amazing, and a national championship would make my life. It's been since 1987 since I saw one of those, and I was a freshman in high school when that happened, and it's been way too long. I know those goals are a little lofty, But when you run 4 seniors out on the floor, especially 5th and 6th year seniors that you got with Kopp, Race Thompson, and Xavier Johnson, gives you an opportunity with age. You have a little bit more wisdom and that calming feeling out there on the floor. I think it's going to be an awesome season for the NCAA tournament. Look for me to be in here a lot more going forward for the college basketball. If I find a game that is particularly interesting for either Indiana in comparison to another Big Ten game, or if I see a game nationally that suits my schedule, we may hang out where I don't feel as stressed to do a good job and watch the game. We may just hang out and do one of those. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. I can't believe I ran off of the mouth for 25 minutes. You guys are absolutely awesome. I shall see you Tuesday night at about 8:55.